Wars fans, and welcome to the latest episode of the Jedi Council podcast and vlog. And I am joined as ever by my good friend and brother in the Force, Dave. Say hello, Dave.
Hello, Dave.
And not only am I joined by Dave, but for the very first time, we are joined by our good friend and guest correspondent for the day, Scott. Say hello, Scott.
Hello. He's stolen my jokes. I'm just going to say hello.
Oh, he does that every single episode. It's like a total running thing. So, Scott, first of all, it'd be really good to let people know about why you like Star Wars, what your kind of level of fandom is. So let's just have a few minutes talking about that.
Okay, my level of fandom is below Dave's, but that probably sets a fairly percentile. I guess like a lot of people just watched. For me, Star Wars is. I was listening to your podcast, last podcast, talking about the Star Wars universe and how people engage. I will admit I very much engage around movies only, and now TV with the Mandalorian, but I don't read the novels. So it's still quite, I am a very general, quite a big film fan. So it's a film franchise for me more than anything, although I do have lots of Star Wars stuff dotted around my house and a nice print of the Millennium Falcon that if I'd bothered to put up in time, you'd be able to see it. So I said, watched it growing up. I guess the first, obviously, was born in the 80s, so only 81. So I missed the originals in the cinema, but used to watch them at home. And to be honest, why I don't know. Just like a lot of people, I guess, just great storytelling, great characters, takes you away from this world, I guess. And they did such a good job compared to other movies of like recreating the whole world, I felt. So it felt like you could sort of almost picture them in the galaxy rather than just watching a movie. And then just gone from there and latterly becoming friends with Dave. Probably rekindled it too much as anything. It's about having someone to talk about it more. And then I think when the more you talk about it, you then get back into it more. And obviously the new movies and my old office, the owner of the office block, used to have life-size R2-D2s and Darth Mauls and stuff like that. So it was really cool space to work in, actually.
Brilliant. I have two little following questions from that. Number one, because it's really important for this episode of Mandalorian we're just about to discuss, and we are going into spoilers this time. Have you ever watched the Clone Wars, the cartoon series?
I am watching the Clone Wars now because I have Disney Plus, so I am now getting round to it. So I haven't before, mainly is because of anything. I didn't actually have access to them very easily because I don't have Sky. So I've got Disney, so I am now watching them and looking forward to actually. And I know that there's fans in the podcast of the Clone Wars, so looking forward to that. Good.
Dave, we'll come back to that later because we'll have some questions based on this episode. The other thing is, you were with Dave when he watched The Last Jedi, right?
Yeah.
I've known Dave for roughly 3 years, and during that time, most of it, I spent hearing Dave rant about The Last Jedi. What was it like sitting next to him in the cinema that day?
So if you ever go to the cinema with Dave, the thing you worry about most is, as he is obviously an older chap, is he looks down. So basically, he sits there and you've never seen anyone be as still in your life for like 2 hours when you know he's excited and he just sits there like this. And there is just no interaction with the rest of the world. Okay, it is him and the Star Wars screen. So whilst the film's on, his mind's obviously going, I don't like this, I like this, but there's no outward expression of that. So you sort of have to look and wait, and the reaction wasn't good.
No.
It was quite an experience. I mean, the good thing, what I love about it is we always tended to meet up for dinner before, and it was quite a nice catch up, and then we'd get excited about it and watch the movie, and then we'd still be in the car park in the rain at 3 a.m. talking about what was good or bad about it. And with that one, it was just like, I'm going home, we'll speak soon. And then like 30 minutes later when he got home before me, and I turned my WhatsApp on, there was like 50 messages of like, this was bad and this was bad and this was bad. He didn't like it.
You must be a good friend of Dave to put up with that, because I've been on the phone to him after the more recent films, and you can hear the voice go for some bits. And I can imagine what that must have been like.
I mean, it was a diverse division movie, I guess. Like, some people love it and some people like it, and I guess like everything, we all interact with things we're fans of in different ways, right? And I guess that in some parts, as someone that works in, slightly worked in marketing, is Disney's now has got a huge audience, so it becomes almost a poison chalice to try and create the perfect Star Wars movie, because in reality what Dave's perfect Star Wars movie is probably going to be different to what maybe a younger fan wants, so it does become to some degree very, very difficult. And obviously, the first fans have been fans of a particular type and style of Star Wars for 40 odd years. That's a long time to get people to bring something on, but in the way the world has changed, and it was good for some levels, the cast being more diverse and more representative of the rest of the world. It's a movie from 2019 rather than a movie from the 1970s. So, but at the same time, I will say I also quite enjoy it when things are not always perfect, because it's quite nice to discuss it. And ultimately, it's just, I don't want to say this on a Star Wars podcast, but it's just a movie. Right, at the end of the day, it's not.
You're right. You're right.
There's no evidence that this was a historical documentary, and there is a galaxy somewhere that's already happened where this all happened. Because that would be amazing if George Lucas now just pulls it out like, here's the skeleton of Luke Skywalker I brought back through the wormhole, and then we're like, oh my god.
I'm still hoping that happens. But talking about good and bad, you've watched the first 2 episodes of The Mandalorian. How have you found it so far?
Well, I've watched all of it. We actually sit here on a Friday night. My girlfriend watches it as well and watch it. She really enjoys it as well, actually. I think these two the last 2 episodes have been my favourite too. And I feel like it's just really starting to. What I like about it is it's slow and fast at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, that makes sense. But so obviously you probably heard in the last podcast, Council was a little bit divided on what we thought about it, but we did say that it would carry on from where it left off and it would go into the trailer. So Dave, first of all, you predicted who the main person in this would be, and you were right. Do you want to kick us off with what you thought about the initial scenes?
Yes. Okay, so definite warning to everybody here. This is now proper spoilers. So normally we just do a quick reaction and we try and shy away from giving away too much, whereas on this recording we've decided, because the episode was so good, it is so hard to hide the main parts of it whilst trying to give a positive reaction to what we thought of it. So that's a quick warning to anybody. Switch off now if you don't want the season, the episode to be wrecked. So there you go, you've had your warning. Right, so yeah, my prediction was that they would land on the next planet. The ship would be a wreck, and that would obviously be part of the story going forward, which is why he would then have to rely upon a different form of transport. And that was exactly what we saw. The fact that there was lots of really good things that I loved about the way that they landed on that planet. Yeah. The fact that because he had to land it manually, all of a sudden you saw what we would normally expect from a re-entry of a spacecraft coming into an atmosphere with all the glow and the fire and whatever. You don't normally see that in Star Wars, which I'm assuming is because there is some mechanism about when the ships land, they are able to ablate the heat in some way. There's some form of shielding that protects the ship atmosphere.
Yeah, because the only other time we've seen it is Revenge of the the ship was broken in 2.
Yeah.
Could that not just be that normally it's not important to the story? The story is that they land, so the landing is just easy.
You do see ships transitioning from space into atmosphere. It does happen in a number of different episodes or number of different films, but you've never seen the fire, the heat. As Ali just said, you did see it in Revenge of the Sith when the ship was crashing. So again, the ship was in pieces, it wasn't functioning like it should do, and so you had all of that heat and fire. And the same thing happened at the end of the Clone Wars, when again we saw in the very final episode, when we saw a wrecked Republic cruiser crashing through an atmosphere. So
not only are we spoiling The Mandalorian, we're now spoiling the Clone Wars as well.
so I love that. I love that. That gave a little bit more realism to the show, and the humour in this was quite good. It was things like, because I was sat there watching it, and you had ground control saying, Razor Quest, please slow your descent. And it's a case of you can almost imagine yourself as the Mandalorian screaming, I'm trying to slow my descent. I'm not doing this because I want to. And I just thought it was it was quite a clever play on humour. And that is the one thing that good Star Wars has. It's not overt humour. It's subtle, but it makes you laugh, and it warms you to the characters that are involved as well. So no, the opening scene's really good for me. Really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I agree. And obviously I had a lot of questions about that, and they were answered pretty conclusively. So Scott, we land on this planet, looks a bit like Earth. Then we find out who's on there and the aliens. And one of the things that people said about the sequel trilogy was the lack of aliens, something that you cannot claim for The Mandalorian at all. What did you think about when they landed and seeing the diversity?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think because obviously, and Rogue One was a little bit better as well. I thought, as obviously it's, I guess the challenge has always been like with CGI versus humans versus costumes. But I definitely feel like the Mandalorian is exploring the universe as perhaps we all hoped it would, with the ability to have individual storylines and sub storylines. So yeah, I think it's always great, and when you've got a planet that isn't led by humans, like, because it's supposed to be a massive galaxy out there, it seems to be convenient that they're only ever dealing with other humans. Yeah, I like just like all the other, like the sea creatures and all the other. It's not just actually about the intelligent life. I feel like we're actually seeing like life on planets, particularly obviously playing into the child's hunger for anything that he can stick inside his mouth, which I also thought was, going back to Dave's point about the comedy, just like with the sort of don't play with your food line, was just bob on as a parent, with the food actually attacking him rather than the other the other way around.
That was really cool. And so Dave, we then obviously were on the planet, and it moves pretty quickly, the storyline, to Scott's point earlier. Straight away, the sense of where is the Mandalorian, and he's directed there.
Mm-hmm. No, it was good. I mean, the port and the area that they land in, it had very strong overtones to what we saw on Corellia in the Solo movie, down to the tones used, the colour palette used, the sky, the lead and overcast sky. It was very, very cleverly done. And as you said, it had like a very industrial feel to it. But the story, despite all the background, and you had so much being thrown at you from a visual perspective, but the story was really quick and really moved forward fast. So I just found that really excellent. 1 second, I've just had a delivery. Carry on.
It better be a Star Wars delivery.
All right, Scott, but then I'm putting you in the main seat here.
Yeah, so. I mean, I also quite like I feel what they've always managed to do quite well, and to keep people's interest, is create parallels between our own world and life, and things that we can associate with, but then also transport us away. So I feel like the ultimate story of good versus evil and the rebels and stuff like that, it's very different, but at the same time there's things to associate with. So I like with this planet, obviously the fishermen and the mechanics, and their attitude being, very sort of akin to other types of movies where it's like, wanting revenge, and the sort of the dock sort of street warfare. I feel is something a lot of people can relate to from other movie franchises as well. So I kind of feel like there's a lot of different dynamics here in this storyline, and it's nice that actually as well that other people are interacting to other levels. So it's not just one person looking, it's not the Mandalorian looking for his kin and that's it, and everyone else is kind of like neutral. They're bringing more an antagonist in. They've all got their own agenda, so it's becoming much more about, feel more real, right? Like it's not just about the Empire or not the Empire. Everyone's facing their own battles and wants to get ahead or wants to get a payday by stealing the child. They're not really interested in the overall big picture. They're really interested in their own picture. So I like those interactions as well. I think they're really good.
It's really cool. So because we are limited on time today, I'm just going to pick out a few key bits here. Mandalorian on a sea vessel makes sense now. I said it was too real world in advance. I retract that. I like it. But they were trying to kill him. First of all, why do you think this is? And then sort of further to that, how did you feel with the setup that we saw there? Dave, come on.
Well, they were after his Beskar. That was the comment that was made by the crew when they threw him, or when he dived into the tank in the ship to go rescue the child. They deliberately thrown the child in there so that he would jump in to try and rescue it, or they assumed he would jump in to try and rescue it, and they were correct. And then they commented whilst he was in the water that they'll just collect the armor afterwards. So it was definitely they were after his Beskar armor. I don't think they even knew about the child. That wasn't their objective.
Anything to that, Scott?
No, I probably agree. I feel like if it was anything more than that, I think they'd have to reference it. I feel like the child was just collateral of getting, it's obviously apparent that the Mandalorians are notorious throughout the galaxy and people know the value in the armor. So that in itself becomes a prize to people. I said, I don't think he was an individual target or singled out or planned. I feel it was opportunist, and I think that reflects, again, going back to sort of the reaction of the brother on the docks of getting revenge. It was just like, these are people that have got a hard life, hard day fishing. He could have had a payday, and it went wrong. And I feel like the child was just collateral in that.
Yeah, and let's talk about who saved him. Dave, you were right.
I cheered. I have to go back to Scott's comment about the fact that I do tend, and I know I do tend to just sit there and absorb what I'm watching. But when we saw Bo-Katan, and specifically her helmet, which made it apparent who she was, I did cheer at the TV. I'm a massive fan of Katie Sackhoff, just from everything that she's been in, from the likes of Pitch Black with Vin Diesel. Battlestar Galactica was where she really became a known, but she's been in a number of other, and she seems to really enjoy science fiction. She is so heavily into science fiction, and the amount of shows and films that she features in is just phenomenal. I am a big Katie Sackhoff fan. I cannot get around that.
And just on her, the fact that she tweeted it out last night or gave a hint towards it, I thought was kind of cool.
Yes, she was looking forward to Friday, yeah. and that was just brilliant. And it was great because she played Bo-Katan in Rebels. Sorry, so
because I want to go to Scott on that point just quickly. Scott, I'm assuming you have no idea who this character is at all.
So I am aware, obviously, I think I follow, I don't just watch the movies. Obviously, what people won't know is I'm obviously involved with you guys in the background, sharing some information and other stuff like that. So I'm aware of these characters, obviously, without have yet to watch Rebels and Clone Wars. So I guess what I haven't got is the excitement of seeing a character you've already loved to be brought into The Mandalorian. But I'm aware of the names and who they are. So I guess what I do like is how they've pulled the other stories together, obviously with what's left of canon, shall we say, because they've obviously had a difficult job with how big the universe is and how they want to control it. But I think it's really clever that they're bringing already liked and loved characters in and how they're doing it. And obviously now seeing Dave's reaction, I feel like you've got to say they've done it well, because otherwise you'd be like, no, you can do it well, or you can do this, it can work really well, or it can work against you if you do it badly.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I just wondered if you had known a little bit less, do you think that would have affected your enjoyment of it? Because obviously it was quite an insider thing, because to your point, I do think a lot of people watched the films and maybe now The Mandalorian now, as opposed to being the obsessive Star Wars people like the Jedi Council are. So how did you think that played out? Did you think just as an experience that it kind of just went naturally and you didn't need to know who they were?
Yeah, so as soon as I said the names, you're like, okay, yeah, fine, okay, they're tying it in cleverly. I said I didn't get the big wow moment. I guess like everything, The Mandalorian has to work on its own. And I think what it has done compared to perhaps Rebels and Clone Wars is now appealing to a TV audience. So it's perhaps for many people the first non-film Star Wars program they've watched, which will then probably lead them to actually then go and watch the Rebels and watch Clone Wars. I think obviously being on Disney Plus, and obviously Disney Plus being so heavily marketed and obviously being in lockdown, so you've got captive audiences, really played into the Mandalorian's favour as well, but genuinely is a stunning piece of TV. So no, I didn't quite have the same reaction of Dave. Like I was thinking, okay, they're cleverly bringing other characters in. What it did then get me thinking is, okay, who else am I aware of in the universe that's perhaps going to be brought in down the line, right?
Yeah. But
I think if you don't know the characters, I think it works. You're going to lose some of it, absolutely, but then, you know, I think it works well enough and smoothly enough that if you don't have the knowledge of the characters existingly, it doesn't mean it's not a good episode. You're not going to get that wow moment, but I also think people are going to watch this again, and I said it will perhaps inspire people to watch the other shows and then come back and go, okay, yeah, now I see this, or I understand this Easter egg, or this was a telltale sign and I missed it 4 episodes ago. So I think it's actually quite cleverly done, to be fair, from actually just making how they're making the TV show and building it.
Okay, and then Dave, obviously they start to talk about their different versions of being a Mandalorian pretty much immediately by the fact that Bo-Katan takes her helmet off. You know, anyone who's just watched the Mandalorian will not be aware, perhaps, that in the Clone Wars, and we've discussed before, they don't really ever wear their helmets. So they started talking about how this was a particular sect of the Mandalorian faith, I suppose. They used the word creed, but it was kind of seemed a bit different to that.
Yeah.
What would you think of that?
That was really nice, that. And it was almost like they were implying that he was part of almost like an extremist version of what the Mandalorians mean. Because her immediate reaction was, because his reaction was, why are you wearing Mandalorian armor? Because you're not Mandalorian. Her immediate response was, this is 3 generations of family have worn this armor. I am more Mandalore than you will ever be, young man. And I thought that was a fantastic response from her. That was setting firmly in place that maybe he doesn't actually understand what it means to be Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And everything potentially that he's been told is twisted.
So I was watching this on a Disney watch party with Alex, and unfortunately couldn't join us today. He immediately texted me the word Death Watch.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah? Are we going down that line with this?
Yeah. That's the extremist creed, I think he is. But he's not even aware of what that means, maybe.
And I realise, Scott, you are not aware of what that means at all.
No, but what I can say is I think it all ties in on the basis that he's obviously been searching for his own kind, and it's obviously very much about his individual journey. So he has a one-dimensional view of what it is to be a Mandalorian. I thought it then ties in quite well because obviously we've seen other people wear the armor where straight away he knew they weren't his creed. So then obviously it was a nice parallel that this time they were his creed, but was, you know, still in his eyes wearing the armor on.
Yeah.
From a comic-y thing that I didn't see, I was like, you could totally see his face with that comeback. Like you could see his shock when she took the helmet off, even though you can't see his face at all. You at the same time totally could see his expression of like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it again, it's just adding another dimension in terms of this is, you know, it's not the Mandalorians. The program is The Mandalorian, right? It's been about him and his journey and his obsession of like to find other Mandalorians like him, right? But in reality, he's gonna find Mandalorians that are perhaps not quite like him.
Yeah, I agree. And so we also, Dave, found 2 new Mandalorians. One of them, not Sabine Wren. Sasha Banks, the rest has long been touted as being Sabine Wren. Very famous in Clone Wars as well, Scott. And she wasn't there.
Doesn't mean she won't be later on in the season.
No.
I think it's got to be about 10, 12 months ago, I shared an early sneak peek. It was almost like a cast list for season 2. Yeah. And Sasha Banks was on that list. So was Katie Sackhoff. So was Rosario Dawson. So they were all named on that list. And at the time, I remember getting a little bit of grief. Alex isn't here to defend himself, but I remember Alex giving me a bit of grief about that list and saying no. I think it's wishful thinking. And Yeah, I'm hopeful, because at the very end of this episode, again, another massive spoiler for people, Bo-Katan gave Mandalorian instructions as to where he would be able to find more information about the space wizards that he just knows as Jedi. And there was a direct reference: you need to seek out Ahsoka. Ahsoka can be found on this planet, so go there if you want more information. And if you tie back to the Rebels TV show, at the very end of the Rebels TV show, there was a final, almost like cutscene moment showing after the death of the second Death Star, the destruction of the destruction of the second Death Star. There was a cutscene that showed Ahsoka coming to Sabine Wren, and the pair of them going on a quest of their own to search out for Ezra. Timing wise, that's possibly concurrent with what we're seeing in the Mandalorian TV show, because it wasn't really defined exactly when the time was. It was just positioned as after the Battle of Endor. So if that's the case, Sabine is with Ahsoka.
Possibly, yes. But I also thought it was a good tie-in to the last series of the Clone Wars that we saw, because obviously Bo-Katan and Ahsoka had a very close relationship in that. So timing-wise, I thought it was really good. Let's move on, because we're going to have, as I said, a podcast to go through some depth. We encounter Imperials, actual Imperials on a ship, with a chain of command very similar to what we are used to in Star Wars. They still can't shoot blasters, obviously, that goes without saying. But what did you think of that?
It was even referenced, wasn't it, that the stormtroopers couldn't from hit the side of a bantha, wasn't it? So, like, I kind of like that they got that in. Yeah, I mean, obviously, as I said, this is why I feel like it's moving fast and slow at the same time. I really like I've enjoyed some of the episodes that have even been sort of like maybe less action packed, and sort of, I said, you can sort of sense things are bubbling, and I feel like we're going to see some different paced episodes later on in this series. But the big picture and, you know, the progressing the storyline is developing quite fast, with the additional characters coming in, and now like you said, actual stormtroopers, and the old, like, you know, being prepared to kill yourself for the Empire is really, really strong, back with, you know, obviously all the original films. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly where all of this leads them to.
I thought I can't remember who the actor is who played the captain of the ship, but he's obviously been in lots of different things in the past. I think Lost and other things that I've watched, and I just thought he was excellent as the captain. But also the way that to what you just said about where he was prepared to end his life and others to protect the Empire, pretty graphic, I thought. Dave?
He shot his own men in the back.
Titus Welliver, isn't it? Welliver?
That's exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's quite dark, isn't it? To then, that, and also, why would you have to? Is he obviously thinking they're not going to follow the order?
Well, I think that was his view, because the pair of them were looking at each other as if to say, okay, they're discussing what they need to do. What do they need to do?
So
and of course, he killed himself at the end, right? So that he wasn't taken, which again is like goes beyond. That's a pretty extreme view of stuff, right? Like, you know, in any war, you've got people fighting for the side, but how many people actually believe in the cause, right? How far would you go? How dark would you go to do something for your cause? Referenced, of course, in Rogue One, with Cassian going like, "You won't believe the things I've done," right? So, like, suggesting he really believed in it and he'd do it, but like the stormtroopers knowingly kind of like, well, they're just sort of, you know, cloned or programmed to miss. Maybe that's why they miss people. Maybe they don't like the idea of killing people, so they miss them on purpose. But just look like they're doing stuff and make sure that their blaster count's okay when they go back to the ship. Good job, Stormtrooper Dave. Well done. You fired the blaster 286 times. It's all fitting together now, right?
Just a little word on Moff Gideon, Dave. Seeing him return quite early on in the series, but I like that.
Yes, and again, there was a heavy reference in the movie itself, because Bo-Katan is searching for the Darksaber. So she is searching for it. We know who has it. That ship was part of Moff Gideon's personal fiefdom, his part of the galaxy, his part of the Empire. So she is pursuing him to get back her property.
Yeah, really, really interesting. And so they, as a team, obviously quite a lot of death. They sort of accomplish what they want to do. And then what do you think about sort of what happens next in terms of for the Mandalorian? What do you see him doing going on now?
I think the next episode could well be another filler.
Right.
I think the next episode, because he's got a ship that is still a little bit clunky. It's still not quite as
a little bit clunky, I think.
held together by rope and nets.
You paid 1,000 credits for. Come on, like.
Yeah.
I think the next case is going to be a lawsuit, isn't it? So, get his money back.
They've got so many little strands all over the place now. So Finn Boba Fett's out there somewhere. That's got to come back. He's got to find Ahsoka. He's now got this relationship with other Mandalorians. He's questioning who he is as a Mandalorian. It feels to me like there's a huge setup. And obviously we've only got 5 episodes and we don't know how long they are to resolve it. But I want to give a shout out as well. I thought the director, Bryce Dallas Howard, I thought she did an incredible job. I mean, the first series, she obviously directed the kind of slower paced filler episode. But this one, wow, what did you think about that?
Yeah.
Scott, let's go Scott first.
Oh, no, I mean, I thought, I said to me, I think that the first 2 of this season, the last 2 episodes have been probably the best. I thought it was brilliantly directed and shot. I think like from start to finish, you're struggling to like, even for a fussy Star Wars fans, to like find plot holes in it. The world was great. We haven't even talked about the star of the show, that little crane thing, which was amazing. And like that Lego set that's got to come out and it's going to be a bestseller because it was awesome. So like the worlds look great. Like, and I appreciate obviously that's not all down to her, but I thought, considering I don't know how much directing she's done. I know like she's done other episodes, but she's still not like that sort of an experienced director. I think it's a very, very polished episode.
Yeah, I agree. Dave?
My only criticism is that it was too short.
And
that was probably because there was no fat on the bone.
Yeah.
This was a complete story that progressed quickly, but had enough in it to create those little bits of side stories, such as when the Mandalorian dropped off the child with Frog Lady and Frogman, Mr. Frog and Mrs. Frog. I thought that was fantastic, and he even made a callback to say, behave yourself and be respectful, and he left it with, and you know what I mean.
Yeah. I'm trying to leave stuff to talk about in the main podcast, though, Dave. So let's not get
my only slight gripe, which is always my only slight gripe in everything, and it was the same in Rogue One, is when you have someone, so like he meets Mandalorians and it's like, I'm not comfortable with this, and then 5 seconds later he's best buds with them, and like that was the same with Jyn in Rogue One. It's like, this isn't my fight. 5 seconds later, she's leading the. Leading the rebels and doing the most iconic quotes of the movie, and I was like, come on, just have one scene of people thinking about this and progressing rather than just someone pressing a light to say like, no, you're now 100% on board. I actually like the fact the different lengths, by the way. I know this has sort of come up before, and like I feel like this could have been a bit longer, but then the issue then starts to be, well, don't add footage that you don't need. How many times have you come out of a cinema and people go, yeah, it's a good movie, but it could have been 20 minutes shorter, right? Like, I feel it's better to get people feel like, I wish that was longer. I feel that's a better outcome. Yeah. But I like the fact, and this is the joy of a streaming service rather than a schedule, they don't need to have a set time. They can do a 2-hour final episode if they want to. It's like the episodes are as long as the story needs them to be.
Yeah.
It should mean that the story is sharp and progressive, and if it's a filler, you talk about the filler episodes. There really shouldn't be any filler episodes. I like the change of pace, and I know it sounds silly, but I feel it makes the action and the big steps forward more impressive when you've got a slower, smouldering one. But I feel overall, when you look back at this, they should all serve a purpose, whether that's, we've got to develop characters in all of this, because ultimately, when you're telling a story, if you don't care about the character, however good the story is, you don't care about it. And Star Wars always had that. You loved the characters. Everyone had a favorite, right? Whether you were, you wanted the rebels to win, or the people that wanted the dark side to win. The characters were amazing and had been developed. That they were all strong and they all had backstories. And I feel like the slower paced episodes allow us to step away from the battles and the shooting and exploring of all the different worlds, which is amazing, to learn more about the characters and how they all interact. Because without that, what he does is irrelevant. If you don't care about him, if you don't care about the child, if you don't care about the quest, it doesn't matter what the outcome is, right?
100% agree. Right, we're going to try and keep this short today. So, Dave, we've been teasing out on social media for a little while that something was coming. Do you want to go into it a little bit right now?
Yes. So, we have been given a number of copies of this. From a certain point of view, The Empire Strikes Back. It's the second volume of From a Certain Point of View. The first one was released. That was about A New Hope. This one is about The Empire Strikes Back. We have got 2 additional copies. So they've given us copies for us to review, which Ali, Alex, and myself will be reviewing. But they also gave us a couple of extra ones for us to give away. So we want to make it so that anyone can enter. But obviously, anyone who listens to our podcast or watches the video. So, what we need you to do is quite simple. You need to send us an email. The email address is May the Force be with you. It's the initials though. So it is MTFBWY, May the Force be with you, at the-Jedi-Council.com. Now, it's the only time you're going to hear that email address, and we'll say it again on other podcasts, and we'll say it again on other recordings, but you'll only hear it from here, so you have to know how to get it. You need to email us, and the title of your email has to be Empire. Okay? So, we're going to give you 2 questions. You need to answer.
I need to write this down. Hang on.
You do need to get writing, Scott.
Yeah.
I'm going to tweet this later, by the way, just to get some followers.
Yeah. Well, the good thing about this is that you can always pause it and re-listen so that you can listen to what the instructions are. So 2 questions, both of them related to Empire. The first one, according to 3PO, what are the odds of successfully navigating an asteroid field? So that's the first one. The second one, because I think the first one, everyone will probably be able to find that one. The second one is a little bit more difficult. So, when the Millennium Falcon escaped or tried to escape from the Empire and was navigating the asteroid field, they flew into what they thought was a crater. Turned out it was a creature. What is that creature? So I will say it's not the Minox that we found inside the creature. It's the creature itself. So that's the second question. So we need you to send an email to May the Force be with you as initials at the-Jedi-Council.com. The title needs to be Empire, and you need to answer those 2 questions. What are the odds of successfully navigating an asteroid field, and what is the name of the creature that the Millennium Falcon flew into when escaping from the Empire? So you get 1 entry for every every channel of social media that you follow us on. So if you follow us on Twitter, we will enter you twice if you've successfully answered the questions. If you follow if you follow us on Twitter. If you follow us on Twitter and Facebook, we'll enter you twice. If you follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, we'll enter you 3 times. So you will have 1, 2, or 3 entries, and we will give each person that sends us an email numbers to correspond to how many entries they get. We will then do a draw in 2 weeks' time. So today is the 13th of the 11th, 2020. We will draw this on the 27th of the 11th, 2020.
For our American viewers, 27th of November, because obviously they do it the other way around, Dave.
They do indeed. They do.
We haven't even referenced it's Friday the 13th on 2020. What can go wrong, right? Friday the 13th. I have a few follow-up questions, Dave. One, if like me you're a huge Han Solo fan, can you reply with "Never tell me the odds"? Is that acceptable, or do you need an actual you need a number?
I need the number.
If I believed in odds, what would that odd be?
Well, you need 3PO's definition.
but I didn't listen because I'm Han Solo and I don't want to know the odds. Just blank it out. Secondly, if we follow you in real life, can we get a 4th entry? Because I know where you all live. So, no?
Dave doesn't want more followers. No more entries.
I don't want
Good prize, that. Good. I won't be entering because I don't feel it's fair because I'm in the extended family.
Scott, in all seriousness, we're going to wrap up now. And so we do something called the final thought. What is your final thought about the episode? But also, can you let us know where people who are watching or listening to this can find you on social media to find your thoughts on stuff?
Can I drag my final thought out as long as Alex always drags his out for it?
Absolutely not. You've got about 2 minutes.
Well, okay. Final thought is I just think the episodes are getting better and better. Really excited about the next one and where it's going. As someone that hasn't watched Clone Wars yet, I perhaps have less idea of where some of these other characters and their stories will go, but I feel that that's giving me an interest, perhaps got a feeling of hope or anticipation of where it might go. So I think they both work. I just think they've been beautifully shot, and it's perhaps feeling as much. It has as much Star Wars feel as perhaps anything ever has. I feel, and I think it was a big task when they moved into a TV show, that, you know, a live action TV show, of how it was going to translate, and it's been brilliant. And secondly, I just love the crane. I just want to see more of the crane. If we can have a spin-off of the crane, the adventures of the water crane, I mean, amazing. And I just can't wait for the Lego set, and then Dave can buy it because I don't want to start collecting Lego. But and you can follow me on social media at all the same. It's Scott SEOTT Hadden HADDEN MCIM. I am tagged in Jedi Council posts quite often, so it's a picture of me with an elephant because in my day job I sell travel.
So give Scott a follow, Jedi Council fans, and he will be giving you nuggets from Star Wars all the time. Isn't that right?
And bringing some of this, hopefully bringing some of the Star Wars universe that was filmed here. Hopefully bringing some of the Star Wars world to life at some point. Yeah, anyway, that's my final thought. More of the crane.
Dave, final thought.
I love the episode. Katie Sackhoff is an absolute goddess.
Your wife doesn't watch this podcast, does she?
She doesn't know.
It does seem like a bit of a dirty old man with this, doesn't it?
If you don't mind, she is not that much younger than me.
She's just aged much better.
To be fair, she has aged much better. Not that I'm saying that I stalk her, but I do follow her on the likes of Instagram and what have you. And she's incredibly healthy. I use the term she's incredibly fit, but what I mean is when you look at how much work she puts into getting ready for the parts that she plays, she really does. She puts her heart and soul into getting to the look that she needs for the part that she's playing. And as well as being just a damn good actress as well. So, yes, welcome return of Bo-Katan and Katie Sackhoff.
Brilliant. My final thought is thank you very much to Scott, first of all, for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. I really didn't like the last episode, but I love that one. So we're going to go more into it on our next podcast, which we should be recording on Sunday, hopefully hitting you on Monday at some point. And with that, may the force be with you.
Thanks for having me.
Done. I was looking at the time for you, Scott. I was really aware that...
No, it's okay.